welcome to Peters Principles. I'm Jim Peters, and as you know, we never know who we're going to have on Peters Principles, and today we are honored to have Senator Donoghue with us. Senator, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Jim.
And Senator Donoghue has made a niche in Boston with a variety of different projects, and we're going to touch on some of them today. It's quite a niche. It's very impressive.
Oh, well, thank you. It's been an honor to serve the 1st Middlesex District for now nearly 6 years. And I've had the privilege of not only representing the district, but being appointed to committees to chair for the Senate on joint committees, including tourism, arts, and culture. And then following that, I was appointed to chair the Small Business and Community Development Committee, and currently I'm chairing the Economic Development and Emerging Technologies, which is a fascinating committee.
That sounds fascinating. What's that one about?
Well, it has to do with obviously economic development, and particularly in Massachusetts, the emerging tech world, whether it's high tech, biotech, and it really intersects with not only business, but it intersects with higher education. It intersects with job training, and certainly making certain that businesses have what they need to thrive here in Massachusetts, including infrastructure and including housing, workforce housing for our workers. In this current climate, we have more jobs than trained workers, and businesses are more and more coming here, but we're in the process of making sure that we are training the workers for those jobs in Massachusetts. And to that end, we just finished the economic development bill that the governor had filed earlier this year. The legislature took up, and it went through a number of hearings and testimony, and then working in the legislature together with my counterparts in the House of Representatives. And I'm happy to say it was passed. I think it was at midnight on July 31st, the last formal day of the session, and the governor signed it into law in August. And it's a $1.02 billion economic development bill that the administration will be using over the next 3, 4, 5 years to support and encourage economic development in the Commonwealth. And it has many aspects that will benefit communities, including Lowell, especially cities like Lowell. There's a large portion of the economic development bill that is geared toward what we call MassWorks, and that's a grant program administered through the Secretary of Economic Development, Secretary Ash. And in the $1 billion plus bill, $500 million of that is earmarked for MassWorks, and that's important. Here in Lowell, we were lucky enough to get a MassWorks grant for the Hamilton Canal District that is underway, and there are other applications including the application for the project being done by Sal Lapoli up on the old Comfort bedding. So that's an example, but there's also so many provisions of the bill that will benefit training and development, including for community colleges, Middlesex Community College, prime example, including our vocational and technical high schools, again, trying to give the skills and the training needed for the jobs of the future. One example is the Neshoba Tech High School was given a grant to bring back advanced manufacturing training, and that was just a few weeks back.
Good.
And then of course the University of Massachusetts, Lowell,
Right.
prime, cutting edge in terms of technology and the jobs of the future.
Last week I was extremely impressed with everything everybody had to say about you in terms of the courthouse.
Well, the courthouse has been a labor of love for so many people for so many years. When you think about it it initiated at least, concretely 15 years ago. That's a long time. There are a lot of people who worked on it intensely. My predecessor, Senator Steve Panagiotakis, worked on it, long and hard. The State House delegation at the time, then Representative Murphy, now City Manager Murphy, Representative Golden, Representative Nangle. I know, when it came about, I was actually the mayor of the city when we first thought we're getting a courthouse. And it was, the initial site chosen. Actually, I keep saying it was the Davidson lot, but that was really the second site that was chosen. The other one that was being looked at was over in Central Plaza. It was never finalized there, but that was a possibility that was being floated. And then the Davidson lot looked like that was the site until the 100-year flood, and that convinced the state authorities that that's not such a good spot for the courthouse. Even though it says 100 years, I think we had 2 floods in 2 years,
Right.
so they decided to look around and shop around. And actually, when all is said and done, I think it's going to be, this is the best location for it in the end. And Congresswoman Tsongas also worked very hard in making the courthouse a reality. And I'm sure Marty Meehan as well, her predecessor. So I think it's been all hands on deck.
It seems to me, the way it was sold at the groundbreaking, that it was an all hands on deck type of operation.
Yeah, people, I think for a number of reasons. Certainly for the legal community, it's very important. These courthouses that we have in Lowell, they've done their job. They've paid their dues, but they're tired and they're old and they're really, in some instances, in decrepit condition. And so, just in fairness to the employees, to the judges, to the constituents who have to use, the courthouses for their legal services, it was needed. And so that's important. But I think the other part, and as the project, although be it delayed over the years, I think it evolved to a much more thoughtful and important project, much bigger project than was initially anticipated. Looking back over the history, initially we anticipated just relocating the existing courtrooms here in Lowell over to a new courthouse. That's not what's happening now. It's a complete redesign of the Justice Center in Middlesex County. And so now there are many courtrooms that have previously been located in Cambridge are coming up to Lowell. Clerk's offices that were in Cambridge are coming up to Lowell. The Registry of Deeds is going to be in the courthouse. The district attorneys are going to be in the courthouse. There's going to be a self-help place for so many people who are representing themselves in court where they can go for some assistance and the like. It's a much more full service, and you will see many, many more people from this end of the county. And the Middlesex being such a huge county, many, many people will be coming into this judicial center instead of traveling into Cambridge, which is what's been happening for years and years and years. So, I think at its busiest peak, especially when jury trials and so forth are going on, it's expected that anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 people a day will be in and out of this courthouse. It's a very big impact, and I think we'll have some ripple impact on the Hamilton Canal District as well.
Well, I think that I was a little bit worried about this in the beginning, but I think people have talked me down off of it, but I was worried that the legal offices that are located in downtown Lowell would move to the Hamilton Canal District. But somebody told me, well, there will be, it's such a big impact by this courthouse that the courthouse itself will not be depriving the city of Lowell from its law.
No, I don't think so at all. I think it will bring new and other business development there. I think it could certainly serve as a catalyst for doing that. The other part of it that I found really interesting, and as I mentioned, it's been a long time coming, but having met with the architect and seeing what his design and their design, his firm is. It's a beautiful design, and I think people will be very happy when they see it. It pays homage to the history of Lowell, and even on the outside with, there's some granite, but lots of glass, lots of contemporary future, so it's kind of the past, but yet looking to the future. And then the setup inside, again, is they've taken great pains to pay attention to the city's history and in many, many details. So I think when people see it, lots of glass, lots of light-filled spaces, there's 17 courtrooms in this courthouse, and every courtroom
17.
is going to be illuminated with natural light through one way or another. There's great public space. There's a dignity to the courthouse that people will feel, I think, when they go into it and pay due respect. So it's in and of itself, it's going to be quite a beautiful complex, but I think it will add to the entire fabric all around the Hamilton Canal, and I think the greater Lowell area. I've heard from people who find it hard to believe, who are traveling now from places like Groton and Air and far out ends of Middlesex County, saying, I don't have to drive into Cambridge. I don't have to take 2.5 hours anyway, getting there in the morning. This is, a gift from heaven for them to think they can come right to downtown Lowell.
That's great. Well, I think it's a gift of heaven to come down to downtown Lowell.
I totally agree.
So,
I totally agree.
I don't know if I've ever told you this, but when my brother-in-law, Paul Songus, was alive, he and I were working in the garden one Sunday, and people were coming in and saying hello, and it was very nice. And after about 2 or 3 hours, I got up and I walked into the house, and I looked at Nikki and I said, Nikki, what is it with Paul in this garden? And she said, don't you know that Paul thinks that Lowell is the center of the universe?
Well, he was passionate about his commitment, and he was passionate, I think, in his belief of what Lowell could be. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. He totally, believed and convinced many others, including, myself and many people I know, that Lowell can indeed be the best mid-sized city in the country, not just the Commonwealth, but in the country. There was I don't think there was ever any doubt in his mind that that's where we could go.
I don't think there was either, but it just was awfully funny when she said it. It was like, yes, he does think that way.
Yes.
Okay. And I can understand it. So.
He was a force to be reckoned with.
Yes, he was. Sure. One of the people in downtown, the businessman downtown, told me that he was the 800-pound gorilla that stood on the downtown and made it work.
Yeah, I think that's true, and he wouldn't take no for an answer.
Right. Well, we've got the Lowell Plan. We've got a variety of different organizations that he started.
Yes.
What was the most exciting part of the courthouse's party for you?
Well, I think great credit does have to be given to Charlie Baker and to Karen Polito, of course, because this is a very big chunk of their capital plan that's being put here in this project. It's the biggest public works project of its kind in the Commonwealth. And Charlie Baker did say on the campaign trail he would support the project, but sometimes you could support it, but when and how much could be the devil's in the details. So I think the exciting part, because being an attorney, I'm around lawyers a lot, and I'm in and out of courthouses, and I've heard, and for good reason, from a lot of my brothers and sisters at the bar that this is never going to happen. We've been promised so many times. There was really, for a healthy amount of skepticism on the part of a lot of attorneys. And I think, especially for a lot of them who were there to see the groundbreaking, to see it happening, that was exciting. And
the actual shoveling.
The actual shoveling, this is the real deal. The funding of it, that was very important, I think. And I think, hearing some of the stories, I was pleased that from the trial court, from the Chief Justice of the trial court and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court, Justice Gantz, who himself had experienced trying cases as a judge in the Superior Court, where he explained, we had a choice of either hearing the witness testify or sweltering to death, and we chose hear the witness testify because of the conditions. So, I think everybody at every level of state government recognized the need, the desperate need to do something here. And then the fact that what's being done is being done at a very high level and very, I think, that's going to contribute for decades to come to this area.
I think so too. I think it's fantastic. I was very pleased that I was asked to go to it, and I enjoyed I enjoyed it. It was funny.
Yeah. Well, and Harry Spence, who is the trial court administrator, who's been chiefly charged with looking over the whole court trial system and looking at every courthouse and weighing the pros and cons and what's needed and what's the priority. And he certainly was convinced that Lowell should be at the top of the list in priorities. But he brought out a very important point, and I have to agree with him. Back, several years ago, probably almost 20 now, when the federal court went from downtown Boston out to what we now call the Seaport, that was, criticized by a lot of people. One, it was looked at as there's nothing there, and it's out of the way, and why would anybody want to go down there? And it's true, when the courthouse went there, it was kind of the only outpost in that area. And you look what's happened since, and office buildings came, and different development came, and it did serve, in my view, and I think that's what Harry Spence explained, it served as a catalyst. And now, look at what's happened over the past 10 or 15 years down there. It's remarkable.
It is. I'm really excited about the possibility of growth in in the area.
And the Hamilton Canal itself, it's a blank canvas in some respects, isn't it? And to have that development, to have a project where we were able to acquire the site back when I was on the council, acquire the site, get a master developer. Now the council's in the process of getting another master developer, but nonetheless moving forward with a development plan that will enhance not just that area, but enhance the downtown because of the proximity to the downtown. That's a great opportunity.
That is a great opportunity. You have a constant good relationship with the representatives from Lowell.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, and they've changed. Roddy's new. And
yeah. Well, he's new to State House, but he's not new to all of us, right? So, I first met Roddy Mom, back when we were competing. It was the first year I was mayor, and we were competing for All-America City in Mobile, Alabama, and he was involved with that project and traveling down to Mobile. We didn't win that year, but we put together another competition the next year. Roddy was integral in that, and I was very impressed with him. I've maintained one of the, I think, reasons that we won that All-America City Award. We were down in Philadelphia competing against cities from all over the country. Had a lot to do with the Southeast Asian Water Festival that was featured, the performances from Encore Dance, the presentation, the theme was Water is Life, and it harkened back to water being so important to the mills at the Industrial Revolution, and now water, looking from the ancient history of the Cambodian and Southeast Asian communities. At any rate, I think that wowed lots of people. Lots of the judges were very impressed with that, as well as our community policing, as well as our Healthy Summer, feeding kids in the summer program. But I was impressed with Roddy back then in 1999 when we competed, and I really think and saw a leader in him then, and I had no doubt that he would be a leader, and I think he's served the 18th Middlesex District very well.
I think he has too. I was very active in his campaign, and I don't regret it, and I don't apologize for it. I don't know if you know this about the show, but it's an opinion show.
Okay.
So it's my opinion and your opinion and whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily LTC's opinion, but usually we seem to get along pretty well.
And, likewise with, Representative Dave Nangle, I've known him for so many years. When I first ran for city council, I knew him. He and his family were very helpful to me when I ran. I'm very grateful to the help they gave me, especially in parts of the city that I wasn't as familiar with. When you're a first-time city council candidate, it can be daunting looking at all across the city and trying to campaign everywhere. And Representative Golden, again, I've known him for as long. And, these are people who are, solid supporters of the city of Lowell, from the city of Lowell, generational, city of Lowell supporters. And I think what is important is having a good working relationship, both in and among the delegation at the State House for Lowell, a good working relationship with City Hall, a good working relationship with Congresswoman Tsongas's office, and that's what makes Lowell different, because I think we've been able to, work together collaboratively just to get things done.
I think so too. I think it's amazing how well you all work together, and I've noticed that when I do go to things for you or for Eddie or for whoever, people always mention the state delegation, the entire state delegation.
We don't have names, we're just the delegation.
The delegation, right.
we joke about it, and that's okay. We're like, we're the delegation. So.
This came up with in a discussion with somebody who's a high-level Democrat in Lowell, and he remarked that it was too bad that Martha Coakley didn't win, but I think Charlie Baker's done a pretty good job.
He really has. I think one of my experience working with the Baker administration, certainly I've worked very closely with Jay Ash, because being the Secretary of Economic Development, we've had a lot of dealings where, given my committee chair, when I tell you it's completely apolitical, it's just all, there's been reaching across the aisle, all across the board. And really, from the beginning, and what impressed me a lot was, Charlie Baker came in, a year ago, well, now it's a little over a year and a half ago, and he was in a month. And then we had snow that didn't stop for 30 days. We got 9 feet of snow in 30 days, crippling, the system and so forth. And what I appreciated was, we all knew we had to do something in the legislature. And I've never witnessed this before, but as we were grappling with what to do about this, we had long sessions, late sessions. And for the first time ever, I saw Charlie Baker's team, all of the cabinet secretaries, come over, sit down. We actually had a group sitting across in the Senate reading room trying to hammer out some plan. And the plan that emerged was setting up a control board, giving them opportunities to make changes where necessary. But there was really putting all politics aside, checking it at the door. Let's just all sit around a table and get this done. And I think that's so important and so healthy in state government, in any government, but certainly in state. And so I give him credit for that, and I think he has worked well, and really does not bring, the, are you a Democrat, are you a Republican? I think he does try and get stuff done. And so far, I think he's been very good to Lowell and to this area. And I look forward to continuing to work with the Baker administration.
I find him to be a breath of fresh air from what I expected. I'm a Democrat, so I expected certain things, and I think he's been a breath of fresh air. I wanted to ask you one question. We have enough time for this. We either can do the Rourke Bridge or the Lower Overpass, but I'd rather do the Lower Overpass. How is that going to come about, and what's going to be the benefit of it?
So the Lord Overpass, when it was first envisioned, it was envisioned to do a couple of things. Improve, the transportation from the connector down into what we are looking at as the Hamilton Canal. Improve the bridges. Also connect the site of the courthouse, which right now is not directly, you can't gain access from
Right.
Dutton Street.
Yeah.
extending Jackson Street down to Dutton, but also realigning the intersections so that Jackson Street will align with Fletcher across the way. So you have a true access over onto the other side, which for so long has been kind of cut off from, you can see it, but you can't get there from here.
Right.
That was the original vision, and it still is part of the plan. But what happened, and again, I really like community process and community input, and that there were reactions from the community both downtown and across the street, especially coming from the Western Avenue Studios area. And they wanted to see, make sure it was pedestrian friendly. We didn't want to have a super highway. We wanted it to be, efficient for in and out of the canal, the courthouse, the Hamilton Canal, the courthouse, and improving transportation in the area, but not make it a speedway. Let's make sure it's efficient, but also walkable, and making sure residents from both sides of Dutton Street have access to safe and attractive walking areas. And so there's been a retooling of the plan, and I know Planning and Development at City Hall has been involved with that. And they are redefining the plan. When we were lucky enough to get an award of $15 million to do that work, and again, so important, the infrastructure around a project like that. So it's in the process of the redesign. I know I had a meeting not long ago with Mass Department of Transportation. It's on track, and the city is working hand in hand with the state to accomplish that.
Okay, it's a little, people are a little bit nervous about it. From my going out and talking to the people I talked to are a little nervous about it because they don't want to see traffic stopped going in and out of the city any more than it is currently.
Right.
So.
And that was the idea of the design, was so that you didn't have tremendous backup, that it's efficient, that it's, so it's like you want to strike a balance when you're in a city of any kind, especially a city like Lowell, which is very compact. It's densely populated, densely traveled, but there's not a lot of square miles to the city. So you want to make sure that you can move traffic efficiently, that people are not bottlenecked or having a bad experience, whether it's going to the new courthouse or to the Hamilton Canal District or to the the Tsongas Center, going to events there.
Right.
And at the same time, you don't want to create, as I mentioned, a superhighway through your city, because that doesn't serve.
Well, Worcester tried to do it, and it never worked out.
Doesn't work. And then again, especially now, with more people who are living in these neighborhoods, more millennials who are interested in walkable, bikeable streets, trying to get the best of both worlds. And I think that's what the plan, in the end, you will see, and it will be a very good plan.
That's good. It's I think it's overdue. I think it's something that people are looking forward to, but
like anything, sometimes the first plan put up on the drawing board needs to be redone and rethought, and you know what? Practice can make perfect sometimes. So, when people say, gee, they're going back to the drawing board, I have no problem with that. In the projects that I've been involved with in the nearly 20 years I've been involved with this city and representing the city in government, I have found that the more we work on plans, the more we bring, expertise, have, input from the community, the better the plan is, the better the end product.
Good. Well, thank you for being with us. And
well, thank you. That went by so fast, Jim.
Yeah, it was fast. I had about 10 more questions for you, but we'll have to wait till another time.
All right. We'll do that.
Okay. This is Jim Peters. This has been Peters Principles, and we wish you a good day.